Test, test. Hey there guys, what's up? Francis and Did here. Welcome to my channel and the program. Tonight, I suddenly begin to feel somewhat boost of both mental as well as physical energy. So I decided to make a YouTube video exclusively for those who are planning to overstay their visa in Australia. So listen, perhaps you may lose your residency status or your visa in Australia due to several reasons. First of all is your visa got cancelled or your visa expired and you hold a visa that doesn't grant you entitlement to work, and yet you breached that certain visa condition, and somehow the Department of Immigration and Border Protection, now known as the Department of Home Affairs, found out that you are in breach of certain visa conditions and they canceled your visa. So well, since I don't actually have any experiences getting my visa cancelled, but I only got to be absolutely honest, I only got a visa refusal experience with the subclass 866 protection visa. First of all, please do not get too upset by that. Just don't invest all your hope onto getting a permanent visa in Australia. I believe that's not the sole objective you are meant to attain during your lifetime. That feeling, it still haunts me. It still makes me wonder when it actually happened, and it still feels kind of raw. I can completely relate to that. I can absolutely understand and comprehend what you are feeling, what you have been through. Just allow me to comment and speculate a bit further. First of all, what makes you think living or obtaining a permanent residency in Australia a top priority of yours? Why do you think you have to, or you just have to acquire that certain status in order to improve your quality of life? Perhaps there are two cases. There can be several distinct cases that require a little bit more comment and speculation. Case number one: you came from a middle class Asian background, such as me here. Your parents have some money, some funds to support you to obtain a level of average living in major Australian cities, especially state capitals such as Melbourne City, those mega cities, those so-called mega cities by Aussie standard. Perhaps after after you manage to graduate from uni and you somehow you somehow manage to get yourself a full-time gig, a full-time job, and that's the first of all, I believe that's actually the very first objective you need to prioritize. You have to prioritize on getting yourself at least a sponsor to sponsor you for a work visa, a temporary skilled work visa, such as the subclass 482, formerly known as subclass 457. So you need to begin doing that bit of homework long before your visa expires. Just give yourself plenty of space to maneuver. Give yourself plenty of buffering time to think it over, to think it through, before you make some irrational or rash decisions to decide your own future. So that's for case number one. Which I also believe it should apply to the majority of the population who wish to get themselves settled in Australia. Case number two, perhaps case number two are those people who are who can actually live a rather decent life without having to actually work on a full-time basis. We can call them the wealthy groups of people. In fact, they can simply, they have earned the freedom to choose wherever they live and however they live. I believe that then if you happen to fall into one of these groups or categories of people, then I don't think you need to acquire a permanent visa in Australia in order to improve your own standards of living or quality of life, whichever terminology you prefer to call it to gauge your current standard of living. So for case two, for people who actually fall into case two category, I don't actually see the necessity where you are fooling yourself or feeding yourself the delusions that you need and a permanent visa in order to get yourself settled in Australia. What about case number three? For which I define those who are actually for those who are actually struggling so hard in their home countries in order to in order to satisfy their basic needs or to meet the ends meet. Sorry, not to meet there, but to make the ends meet. What else? Sorry. Yes, those people who are struggling in their home countries, just trying to make themselves, just to make their ends meet. Perhaps you do need a a permanent visa in Australia, and afterwards you can move on to applying for citizenship. Because let's say, for example, if you happen to to come from a family in East Asia with humble backgrounds, such as in Singapore, in China, in Malaysia, or Korea, Japan, because once you do your homework well and you get yourself well planned and prepared for the for the life you will be having in Australia. So as long as you equip yourself with those necessary skills and competencies in some certain realm of work or realm of studies, you can pretty much how should I put it? You can with those competencies and skills or knowledge, you can pretty much manage yourself pretty well in Australia, even in Sydney. Though you just need, you will have to suffer for some time at the very beginning. You need to make some more friends, and you need to get yourself then get yourself familiarized with with the local culture, landscapes, patterns of living, and then you will be all good to go. You are all set. After some cultural shock and not so prolonged suffering, that occurred due to your lack of knowledge of Aussie people and culture. Yeah. So what about for those who already overstayed their welcome? Yeah. What about you guys? What about you guys who actually have already overstayed your visa? What options do you have? Well, first of all, yeah, I did once actually contemplate about overstaying my welcome in Australia, as well as you guys did. I do came out with several contingency plans. If you don't mind, I like to share them right here, right now, with you guys. Just don't get too depressed or upset by your current status of overstaying. You still have several options, though you might still have to suffer the repercussions of overstaying. Number one, yeah, you can still try to go back to your home countries. Probably the Department of Immigration and Border Protection will impose a 3 years re-entry ban. That really depends, and I can't actually give you an accurate an accurate numeric figure on that, since I didn't actually have the experience of overstaying, though I did come very close to becoming a illegal non-citizen in Australia. Though I do once considered the contingency plans, nevertheless, I still chose to depart Australia for some time and see if I can find any loopholes to exploit, to work between the angles and in time, and after some intrinsic and delicate planning, contemplations, perhaps, I just, I still, what should I, how should I put it? Well, yes, there's another option. Try the 457 visa, now known as 482 visa cross sponsorship. Now, what do I mean by cross sponsorship? You can actually get yourself a sponsor, of course, but you have to get the sponsor from one of your friends or your acquaintances or your classmates at uni. You can use his or her company to sponsor you, and in turn you can do the same to that friend of you. Hope I have made some sense. Or does that make sense to you? Perhaps it can help. I just I literally and honestly, I haven't done that, so I can't actually give you any so I can't actually give you guys any accurate anticipation regarding such outcome. So just try it at your own risk. But it is still an option. And what else? Yeah. Well, you can still basically turn yourself in to the Department of Immigration and Border Protection, saying that you have, or just by admitting or confessing yourself to the government, saying that you have overstayed your visa, and what should I do now? They may or may not detain you at the infamous Villawood Detention Center for visa overstayers. Well, even if they do, let's presume even if they do, you can still have a place to have a roof over your head. You can still have a place to sleep, to eat, to shit, and you can even have the access to the internet at that detention center. So that might still be an option for you. What else? Yeah. Shit. I'm getting more. Somehow I am beginning to get more emotional whenever once I start to talk about such topic on YouTube. Since all things considered, I once came very close to becoming a unlawful non-citizen in Australia myself. So what else? Yeah, you can try to apply for a membership in any political party in Australia. I have done some browsing, some research on YouTube. Right before I made this video clip, I have found that a particular party in Australia, and it's located in inner Sydney. They actually support detainees in that center, to get granted a legal Australian visa to extend their stay in Australia. I have provided the link to their Facebook page and the video I just watched right before I make this video. So I suppose it can help you guys, since I believe it can also help me too. Shortly after I will make my attempts to contact them, see if there's anything we can do to mutually benefit from one another. So anyway, guys, I believe I have talked enough. I have wasted enough of your guys' time so far. If you have any questions, feel free to ring me using WhatsApp or Google Hangouts anytime during Australian Eastern Standard Time. Perhaps, yeah. If I happen to miss your call, please just leave me a message and I shall try to get back to you ASAP. So anyway, regardless, thank you again for watching, and thank you again for your continuous support. Without your guys' continuous support, I couldn't have reached this far on my path of making more YouTube vids. I have to honestly, YouTube has pretty much it's become it's become a major part of my life's agenda, and without it I could barely survive here in China, and I also need to thank God for that. But regardless, thank you again for watching and listening. I'm your host, Francis Undead. Stay tuned, stay faithful, stay blessed, and I shall see you on the next video on YouTube. Bye bye. Cheers.